In this exercise, I'm going to show you how to work with a rotated constraint angle. Now, you may recall when we first created this arrow back in the previous chapter, I went ahead and drew the shaft and the feathers along the mean horizontal so that we could maintain symmetry and have greater control. And then I rotated the shaft into place negative 30 degrees. Now we're going to attempt to draw the arrowhead on the other side at that same negative 30 degree angle and still maintain accuracy and symmetry. I've gone ahead and saved my changes as allchicletsarego.ai found inside the 05 Shapes folder. And I need to select this shaft independently of the rest of the arrow. And as you may recall, it's all grouped together inside of this arrow group. So I'm going to grab my white arrow tool and I'm going to Alt-click or Option-click on this line in order to select all of the line but nothing else. And you can see here inside of the Layers panel that something is selected inside of the group. Not the whole thing, but part of it. That's what that little green square indicates because the color that I assigned to the layer is dark green. You can also see up here in the Control panel that a path is selected. Now, it's a little bit hard to see that path outline because it's so dark, but it is there. All right, let's say I want to duplicate this line to a different layer. If I were to drag this little square down to a different layer like so, to the drawing layer, that would move it to that layer, which is what I just did. I moved it out of the group too. Notice the arrow group now just has the feathers and nothing more. So I'll press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that modification. Instead, I'm going to drag this little square down into the drawing layer, and I'm going to press and hold the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac, and notice my little pointing finger hand now has a plus sign next to it. When I release Alt or Option, I go ahead and duplicate that shaft. So notice we still have the arrow group. It's still absolutely intact, and we have this new path at the top of the drawing layer. All right, I'm going to Twirl Close Tattoo, and I'm going to grab this endpoint and drag it like so until it snaps into alignment with that guide intersection. Now let's say that I want to extend the length of this line, but I still want it to stay negative 30 degrees or whatever that angle was that I entered before. Why then I'll go ahead and marquee this endpoint so that it's selected, and I'll drag it. But I have no idea if I'm aligning this properly or not. And I could very easily be drifting away from negative 30 degrees without knowing it. And I should be able to maintain an absolute line as I drag here. But if you press the Shift key, which is how you constrain your motions inside of Illustrator, then you're going to drag at all kinds of crazy angles. Notice this? And that's because you're dragging perpendicularly, either horizontally or vertically from your original point location, or you might be dragging 45 degrees away from it, but you're not going to drag 30 degrees, which is what I need. All right, so I'll go ahead and press Control-Z, Command-Z on the Mac to undo that modification, and we're going to rotate the constraint axis. And you do this by pressing Control-K or Command-K on the Mac in order to bring up the Preferences dialog box, and there it is. Second option in Preferences is Constraint Angle. And I'm going to change it to negative 30 degrees. That's just because that's a value I recall when I rotated the back of this arrow. So as I say, negative 30 degrees, I'm going to go ahead and click OK and see if this works. And now I'll drag while pressing the Shift key. So now notice that we have aligned the constraint axis exactly to the angle of this arrow. And you can shift drag other directions as well. Basically, the entire constraint axis has now been modified 30 degrees. So the whole thing is tilted, which is great. That's exactly what we want. All right, so anyway, that seems like a good location for that line. The next thing we need to do is we need to draw the arrowhead. And as I was saying, inside of Illustrator CS5, you have some new arrowhead options that are really convenient. They're really great. However, they don't really suit our needs in this case because we're trying to draw a graphical arrow that has two different colors associated with it. So we're going to draw that arrowhead using the polygon tool, and I'll show you how that works in the very next exercise.